Hi, everybody. Welcome to our Competitive Advantage talk presented by Ticketmaster. My name is Devin Shapiro. I'm a first-year MBA at Sloan, and it's my pleasure to introduce our presentation, Building Smarter Venues, How Gillette Stadium Uses Data to Drive the Bottom Line, by Bronson Green, Kraft Sports Entertainment, and this is presented by the Kraft Analytics Group. With that, I'll hand it over to Bronson.
Thank you. Hey, everybody hear me? Thank you, Devin. Good morning, everybody. We're excited to be here and kick off a really exciting conference. Like Devin said, my name is Bronson Green. I'm the Director of Strategic Operations with Kraft Sports Entertainment. And we're really excited to talk to you guys about the program that we developed in partnership with Kager to really make more informed business decisions and understand how we can properly leverage data to become a more efficient building. And we're talking specifically about Gillette Stadium and how, as the building has evolved over the years, we've needed to get smarter and gain some visibility into how we're operating. So for those of you that don't know us, we're in Foxborough, just south here. We play host to an incredible volume of events year-round. So Gillette Stadium hosts about 50 ticketed events, in addition to about 350 hospitality or special event functions. So that's everything from a trade show to a conference, a business meeting, bar mitzvah, a wedding. That business for us has grown nearly exponentially over the past few years. So for those of you that don't know, there's a football team plays in our building. They happen to be the 6-time world champions for all the other teams in here. We're excited about that. We've hosted some incredible games, really memorable experiences at the stadium. We are home to the New England Revolution. We're kicking off our home season on March 9th. We're really excited about the upcoming year for the Revs. We've also had some incredible concert talent over the years. Hopefully you've attended some of those. They are a blast. And we've also even hosted the NHL Winter Classic in 2016. So hopefully you have all or will attend one of those events. It's quite the spectacle. And in 2017, Gillette Stadium celebrated its 15th year as a building, as a venue. And over that time, the space has really evolved. And the focus of that evolution and that development has really been centered around how we can drive experiences for our fans and for our guests. And really, to speak about what Jessica was talking about earlier, is to continue to identify engaging spaces that really enhance your experience of being in our building. And for our purposes as venue operators, we're considering that space both on an event day for a fan, for a ticket holder. So she talked about some of those spaces earlier. But we're also looking at that space to be functional and flexible to operate as a hospitality destination on non-ticketed event days. Again, as that business has continued to grow for us, we want to make sure that the spaces that we're building can really be a cool experience to host that special event. Obviously to be in our building, but to have an engaged experience that's really worthwhile. So since 2013, Gillette Stadium has undergone significant construction and site development, again, at the heart of which is focused on the fan experience on game day. So we talked about one of those spaces here, the Optum Field Lounge earlier this morning, which is located in the south end zone of our stadium, just about 5 feet off the grass. So a really incredible place to watch a game. But you can start to get a sense in the picture on the right just how flexible that space can become and how cool and unique that experience would be to host an event in the Optum Field Lounge and add a dance floor or have a wedding in that space for some diehard Massachusetts residents. But a really, really cool space for us at our building. And again, since 2013, we've actually added about 100,000 square feet of additional space onto our property. And as venue operators, we're challenged with maintaining these spaces, often with the same number of resources, the same number of technicians and laborers. And really, that's what kind of started our conversation here to think about what's happening in our building, what kind of work is taking place, who is doing that work, how productive are the staff, and really get a sense of, as the building continues to evolve, how are we going to take care of these things? We have new equipment, we have new spaces, we have more events. How can we be more strategic in our approach? Another one of those spaces here, the Cross Insurance Pavilion and Business Center. Again, a really cool destination, a place to congregate for fans on event days, on game days. But again, look at the functional space that we can host events of different sizes and shapes in that space. One more for us here, the DraftKings Fantasy Sports Zone. So this is the place to go on game day. This is where you get all your fantasy stats, check out how your team's doing, see what's going on around the league, have a drink or 5 with some friends, and really have a good time on game day. So again, the challenge as a venue operator is increasing the size and scope of our property and being more strategic about how we're actually managing those spaces and making sure that we're enhancing those client experiences and not slacking in any way. And the Crafts have really been innovative in the way that they approach these projects. Again, it's focused around how we can not only meet the expectations of fans, but really exceed expectations. And we've recognized, and all of you have here, when you attend events, we have different interests now. The fans are different, they want different things. And as a building, our development process has really had to evolve to meet those needs. And hopefully, and our goal here is to exceed them and continue to driving those exciting experiences within our building. So through this process with Kager, we started about a year and a half ago, and really what we wanted to do is just get our arms wrapped around the data. What existed today or back then? What software systems were we using? How were we leveraging technology and devices? How were they deployed within our building? And how could we integrate those various streams in one singular warehouse that makes sense to us? The next step in the process was, okay, now we have the data, we have our arms wrapped around it. How can we visualize that information that really makes sense to us and is something that draws our attention to the high priority projects and the things that require immediate business attention? So what are the visualizations, what are the graphs, what are the tools that we can use, and what can we automate, right? We were pulling a lot of manual reports, I'm sure a lot of you do, or we're in Excel all day, and we're making graphs and color coding, and we wanted to automate that process and really prioritize and be more efficient with our time. And the next piece that really is going to be, I'm sure, a topic of conversation throughout this conference is how do we increase buy-in? How do we increase the business impact of this data? And it's really crucial in our position here is to communicate effectively with a really wide variety of stakeholders within our building. This information needs to be communicated to a facilities technician that's out in the field, that's working on an air handler at 2 o'clock in the morning, and a senior business leader. And the communication tools and methods that we deploy here were really important, and we had to be flexible in our approach to both of those stakeholders. And ultimately, we wanted to partner with them, right? This wasn't an opportunity for us to play Big Brother and to hold people accountable and make them use technology and devices. We wanted to give them a voice in the conversation, and that was really an important piece of our project as we move forward here. And then ultimately, again, what Jessica talked about, now we have the data, what are we doing with it? How are we creating action plans or measuring success? And how do we recognize the impact of making a change, right? Now we have the data, we've built out KPIs, we have new metrics to compare against. Now what? Now how do we take this information, communicate it, deploy it, and then measure it against ourselves? And I think that's something that our business takes a lot of pride in. And I think the football team is obviously a great example of that, but we're really not satisfied with hosting an event. We are constantly debriefing, we're constantly analyzing, we're constantly considering how we can be better and how those experiences can continue to improve for our fans. So our use cases here, this was a part of our original foundation as we went and had the conversations with Kager, is to just understand again, what are the trends that are taking place? What type of work exists? We've got custodial staff, audiovisual staff, facilities technicians, HVAC techs, operators, laborers. We've got a host of people that are moving throughout our building. What are they doing? And what are some of those trends that we can start to recognize, again, to start preparing for the future? And that leads into the next topic is, now we have the information, we have a historical basis to work off of. how can we effectively forecast for events? We're an event business, right? You're paying to be in our building, and we want to host you and provide a great experience for you. And now we need to prepare for those events specifically. And the things we wanted to understand as a building is, what's the difference between a Revolution soccer game and a Kenny Chesney concert in the middle of August? You can make some assumptions there, but the workload is very different. And how can we effectively prepare for those events and recognize the type of work and the volume of work that we should anticipate within those spaces or within those specific types of events? And then the equipment history, right? It's really hard to have a conversation with a senior business person. First of all, asking for money from people is never easy, but when you say, hey, we need to make a capital expense, we would like to replace a piece of equipment here, and it's going to cost X amount of dollars. The first response, why? What's going on with it? What happened? How much work have we put into it? How old is it, right? And as Gillette Stadium began to age, we're an outdoor venue, right? We're taking a beating in this beautiful New England winter every year, and we need to prepare for those things. And now we wanted to create a support system with our data to really have those conversations and say, here's exactly why we need to replace that piece of equipment. It's old. We've worked on it this many times. It takes this long to complete. The staff are having these issues with it. This is the amount of labor involved in that specific piece of equipment. We needed that support, and we needed to see the data differently. And that was an important piece of this whole project, is that we had data that existed in our software systems and our maintenance systems, but we needed to visualize it differently, and Kager was able to help us with that process. So I'll walk you through the data here, very high level. Obviously, you probably are all more data focused and a little bit geekier than I am maybe, but this information can drill down to the nth degree. We can get so specific here in terms of the volume of data, right? And that's something that Jessica talked about this morning. There's so much information, right? So what do we want to visualize that's really easy for us to digest and gives us those key priority areas that we need to address as a business? So this is our kind of initial, our first dashboard that we created. And you can see all the filters and drop downs, and that's where we live, right? That's everything from, how much work is assigned to a specific technician. What type of work is taking us the longest to complete? Our custodial staff, is it taking them 2 times longer to complete something than a facilities technician? Like, what are those ratios and why? Right? So this information here gives us a really clear sense of the work that's happening within a time frame. So we can use this on a weekly basis, a pay period basis, monthly, annually. And again, we can start to recognize if something's happening on an event day and compare those events to each other. Right? Kenny Chesney's got a lot more custodial requests than a Revolution soccer game. Right? Why? What's the volume, and how can we prepare as a business to apply our resources more effectively and strategically to prepare for those things? So the next dashboard here, this was a manual report that I used to love doing and spending a lot of time in Excel, but this is a progress chart. This is a really clear sense for us to say, how is the work being distributed to the staff members, right? What's the volume of work? How efficient are they at completing it? This is a really basic completion percentage graph that shows us how effective the staff are working. But again, for a quick reference guide, we have our attention drawn towards these red areas. Are they meeting our specific thresholds? Are they completing work in a timely manner? Is it getting done to our expectations, right? We have right now kind of that 75% range to say, look, are they completing enough work? And then the next question is why, right? You can see somebody here, with 0 preventative maintenance work done in that time frame. There might be a very good reason for that. That person might be, a part of a building project, or they might be off-site doing something else, but now we have that visualized here and we can start asking those questions. Again, this is a manual report that used to be pulled that's automated, which is really exciting for me. I get a little bit of my life back. But this is a cool tool for our facilities managers, because not only does it break down the work that's been assigned across the different groups. So again, we're talking about those AV facilities, HVAC, custodial, all those different groups, right? This is the work ratio that is being distributed to the staff. But the cool thing here is the top performers, right? Now this is a tool where we can have a conversation with staff and say, look, we recognize what you're doing. You're running all over the place. You're completing a lot of work. You're the top performer for your team within this pay period. Congratulations. We have recognition opportunities now. The staff are competitive with this information. And it allows us to see who's maybe in that bottom tier, who's really not being as efficient. And again, we can ask the question, why? What are they doing? And start understanding preferences for our staff members. Because the dual benefit of this project that we went through was not only can we be more productive and efficient as a business, but we can also improve the employee satisfaction, right? Now they're working on things that not only they enjoy working on, but they're more skilled at, they're better at, they're more efficient, and we reap the benefits of that too, right? So we're becoming more productive, and they're doing things that they enjoy working on. And a simple example is something like our general maintenance staff. Right? We found that we have a really highly skilled painter within the group, right? And we had been assigning that person all of our carpentry work, right? We found that by moving him to doing solely painting projects, it increased efficiency nearly 3 times. It was 3 times faster than the other technician. A no-brainer. He loves painting, he's great at it, and he's more efficient. Home run for all of us, right? The next piece here was a really interesting business use case for us. And what we did is, we're walking you through these dashboards as it's evolving. So as we created them, we start thinking about things in more detail, right? So this is a new iteration that we are trying to understand and visualize these on-call and overtime work orders that are taking place. Again, as venue operators, we're challenged with leveraging the same staff. We're not supposed to spend any more money, and we really need to drill down as a cost center and understand what we're spending money on. And one of those key drivers was our overtime cost. So we really wanted to understand, why do we have so much overtime? Why are the staff coming in all the time, late at night, and we're paying them at a higher rate? So this graph has their rate structure built out, and now we can record every hour that they're coming in to the building to work at that rate, at that overtime rate scale. And actually, by using these last 2 graphs, we were able to identify a specific technician that wasn't completing preventative work. So think of adding a filter to your air handler in your apartment building. Wasn't completing the preventative work and actually creating opportunities for himself to come in at an overtime rate. So it was an unfortunate finding for his future with the company, but a really interesting business case for us. We recognized work wasn't being done, and we recognized an increase here through his overtime costs, and we trended that data over a certain period of time, and we really found out a lot about what was going on in the building. And a really kind of a unique case that we're just going to continue to evolve here. The next piece, equipment, right? That was the hard conversation we used to have with our chief operating officer. We need to spend all this money on this piece of equipment. Well, okay, why? What's going on? What's the work involved? And now we have all of that information clearly visualized in this graph here. And we worked with Kager to create a maintenance score that combined all the information to really give us those key drivers for our business priorities when it comes to how we can project end of life for equipment. Again, we got to that 15-year marker. We're now in that 20-year marker of our anniversary of being at Gillette Stadium, and we need to be more strategic about how we can prepare for the end of life of equipment and be able to have informed conversations with senior leaders that says, this is the amount of work involved in this piece of equipment. This is the amount of overtime involved. This is how long it takes us to complete, right? All of these various factors are clearly distributed and recognized within this graph here. So we can see very quickly, these are the top 5 pieces of equipment that we need to address, right? Maybe we're not doing the right maintenance on it. Maybe the staff isn't completing the work to the best of their abilities. But again, now we have those really clear indicators of what should be our future business priorities. And then on the bottom, we have the kind of future expectations or the upcoming schedule. So what's happening next for that piece of equipment? Oh, it's supposed to be maintained in a few weeks. We got preventative work. There's a corrective work order. So we can kind of visualize that there. But the other opportunity that you can see, and I know it's hard for everybody to see in the corner, but is our notes and feedback session. And it is in that corner there on the bottom. So basically, all of the technicians can actually communicate back to us and give us information of what's happening in the field. Right? That was the important part of this process. We don't pretend to know how to fix an air handler or replace an electrical panel. I know I can't, so this is what we rely on these people for. But we want to give them the channels and the methods to be able to communicate with us, because they're the experts. And I think that was an important driver in this process is, again, to partner with that group. Say, look, you tell us what's going on and let us know how we can support you. So that feedback and note section became really important. And again, it improved that employee satisfaction. They're working on things they like. They're telling us what their skills are. They're telling us what's happening in the field. And we're really kind of empowering them to do so. So the data collection process for us was really interesting. We talked about all of those new spaces that we added on, that 100,000 square feet onto our property. And we missed out on a lot of equipment. Right? Our maintenance system wasn't up to date. We had things that were missing that we were supposed to be maintaining, and we just didn't know about it. Right? So we went through an exhaustive process to clean up the data, and a valuable process for us. We had old locations that were listed, the terminology didn't line up, and so our first step was really to make sure that our information was accurate. The next step, which was interesting with the staff members, is we wanted to capture the amount of time it took for them to do work. Right? We wanted to get a sense of what's occupying their time on a daily basis. And what we originally asked the staff to do was to take out a device that we're operating this technology on and hit start when they began work and hit stop when they finished. And they hated it. Again, here's Big Brother watching over my shoulder as I'm hitting start and stop. Like, what happens if I go to the bathroom? Can I stop it and start it again? Like, what are the rules here? And it was just really an interesting learning experience for us, because we got the feedback quickly, and it was negative. So we wanted to make sure that we were capturing the information that we needed, and it had to be accurate. So what we did is we captured the information on the back end. So what we did is used our timestamp based on the status change. So once work was assigned to an individual, they received it on a device, they changed the status to say that they're in progress, they're working on it, and that's how we captured our time. And then when they closed it out, we got the end time. So we got the information we needed. We have a full scope now of how long it takes to complete work and the type of work, and we didn't impact the technicians. The other thing, again, we talked about, giving them those opportunities and tools to communicate back with us. It was a really important part of this process, again, to kind of separate that big brother mentality and partner with them and say, look, you give us the information. You give us the feedback of what's happening in the field. And then, again, we can use that information, align it with the data that we have to make those strategic business decisions moving forward. So the business impact, right? We think that there's a really incredible opportunity here to use this information in future contract negotiations. We now have all the data. We can hold a partner, a service provider, a vendor, whoever's coming into our building, we can hold them accountable to this data. We can create KPIs. And really the goal of those data drivers is to really just hold them accountable and make sure that we're getting the full scope of services that we expect, and that the full value of that experience and that relationship with a partner is reflected in the data. So now we can use this information and apply it to a contract negotiation to hold someone accountable within our business. We talked about overtime abuse, a really clear case, unfortunate for him, valuable for us. But again, we want to create a more efficient workflow. We want the facilities manager to have the tools to balance the work more effectively and, again, improve that satisfaction of his staff members. So what's next for us? We've gone through a process for about a year and a half, and again, every time we get in the data, we think of something new. Oh, what if we did this? What if we tied in equipment? What if we tied in the time? So we're continuing to evolve this process and learn more, and the next key piece for us is just tying in more data. So one of the pieces, again, as a cost center in operations here, we want to recognize our utility spend, right? So how can we tie in energy management data to recognize, hey, our equipment's operating more efficiently. Our equipment's operating more efficiently, and that results in a consumption loss or a decrease in the energy usage within our building. We think that would be a really interesting use case. Customer service. If you guys are coming to our building and you're saying, hey, I'm really cold in this space, and we start to trend that information from our customer service platform, maybe we can look back and say, well, is the equipment working there? Is it maintained? Is it one of our high priority issues? What's going on? How can we align the feedback that we're receiving? Supply costs, equipment barcoding. Again, we want to empower the technicians to walk up to a piece of equipment, scan it, and get the full history of what's going on with that piece. Data standardization is really important. So now we have a new process in place where anytime we add a new space or we go through a site development project or construction project, we have a standardization of what data we need to receive so that we're capturing it within our system. And again, that last piece, holding vendors accountable, making sure that they're using our technology and that we can measure their success within our building. So we think we've become more proactive. We used to be a reactive business and react to issues that were taking place in the field. And the data that we've used and the dashboards we've created have really made us a smarter, more data-driven business. So thank you. I think we've got a few minutes for questions, and then I'll be available for anybody after the fact. Sure.
With the influx of sports gambling legalized, have you already made provisions within your stadium to handle this?
We're constantly investigating some of those trends. We need to understand a little bit more specifically how it would impact us for a variety of events. But you look at some of those spaces that we have, and you can instantly think, hey, on a game day, that would be a really unique space. So we're constantly investigating what the sports gambling opportunities would look like within the physical infrastructure of the building.
How are you capturing customer exact feedback?
We have a software technology that we deploy. We use Zendesk. So we're capturing information from social media channels, from email, from telephone lines, our account reps. And people come to Gillette Stadium, they have the opportunity to communicate with us, and we have data that captures that information. So now we're reporting on all of those things. We're trending those issues or that feedback, again, to create some action plans to improve client experiences, but also I think an interesting use case to compare it to how the building's actually operating. Sure.
The data, the dashboard you showed from Zendesk?
No, that is from our Kager dashboard. So we partnered with Kager. They used to be across the hall, and now they're in their own space, but they helped us visualize all of this information. Yep.
I'm curious, you have a ton of data already from all your operations now. Are you using that to project into the future to do some preventive measurements to save for the cost for you?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, we're going to continue to evolve. Our building will change. It'll look different in 5, 10, 15 years. So we want to make sure that we have that standardization of data to make those decisions and to prepare for those things. And now we can use this information too. If we want to host an external event, we can talk to a partner and say, hey, look, this is what it's going to take to run an event at Gillette Stadium from an operational perspective. And our business is growing. We could open another facility. The soccer team has a brand new training facility that's going in. Again, we want to be able to capture all this information and be able to recognize, how things are operating property to property. Well, it's a challenge every day, obviously, but I think it's an exciting opportunity. We try to pivot the conversation to be challenges or things that aren't operating to our expectations and really think about them as opportunities. And I think that's our approach that we take on a daily basis within our business. And that's what gets me excited, what gets me out of bed every day is to consider, what are the challenges, what can we fix today? And that's the mentality of our entire business, is we're not satisfied with an event. We want to make sure that we're continuing to evolve and continuing to be better. And the challenges are, again, we have so much information. How do we communicate it effectively? And how can we deploy operational changes to see the impact, right? It's different for us in an operating world to make a change and see the impact of that change versus changing a ticket price or doing something from a revenue side. We're looking at things operationally with human capital, and we're seeing how effective technicians are. Some may be technologically challenged, right? So we need to communicate effectively to them and show them the value of the work that they're doing. Maybe the Kager folks can answer more specifically. I mean, this was originally, we added all of this space, and we thought immediately we need to understand what's going on and visualize what's happening. But I think it was about a 9 to 12 month process to get everything up and running. And again, we put up a dashboard, and then we went through and did a data cleanup, and then evolved the dashboards to add some of those other graphics. So I think we're all set on time. Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it.